Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Joe Tyrrell and welcome back to the Runoff, the GP Blog podcast. Well, 2 weeks ago, I sat here and predicted how the Spanish Grand Prix would be a snooze fest. And well, for a short while, it looked like I'd be proved wrong. It wasn't a classic, but it wasn't the worst either, as Max Verstappen took the W and Charles Leclerc suffered a big setback in his bid for 2022 glory. Joining me as ever are Cam and Toby, and they'll be on hand to reflect on the race, and we'll look forward ahead to one of the highlights of the calendar, the Monaco Grand Prix. This is the 2022 season, episode 7.
Like no, mate, that was so not right. Get in there, Lewis. George Russell, qualified Mr. Hamilton. You are the world champion.
Well, Cam, Toby, thank you for joining me as ever. The Spanish Grand Prix, it wasn't a classic, but it wasn't awful. But it was a huge win for Max Verstappen.
Yeah, I think Red Bull will be extremely happy. Obviously, Verstappen took the victory, but then Perez getting fastest lap and second place. I don't think it could have got any better for them. I think the race itself, the start was quite interesting, obviously with the overtakes and Hamilton and Magnussen having a small collision. But apart from that, and obviously the Charles Leclerc incident later on in the race, there wasn't too much excitement. But like you said, Joe, it wasn't horrendous. I think we predicted that it could have been a lot worse. So it was a decent watch in the end, I think.
Cam, what did you make of the race? It was definitely a big bonus for Max Verstappen that Charles Leclerc didn't finish the race.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was a race that was dictated mainly by what happened to Ferrari, with Leclerc obviously retiring and Sainz going into the gravel at turn 3 or whatever it was. So I think, Red Bull will be very, very pleased with how it turned out, especially after Verstappen had that little moment, the same place Sainz did, not quite as severe, and managed to recover. I must say I was pretty disappointed, but not surprised at all, but very disappointed when Red Bull gave the team orders for Verstappen to pass Perez when Perez was in the lead for the race. I kind of think in that kind of situation, you're like, Max, well, you've made an error. Perez is not. And I think that should have meant Perez was allowed to win, but obviously it doesn't suit what they want in terms of Max winning the championship.
Max Verstappen on top of the podium. It's been a familiar sight lately, hasn't it, Toby?
Yeah, it's one that we expected, but obviously his issues at the start of the season with his retiring and DNFs kind of hindered seeing him as much as we thought. But we're hitting the point of the season where we can really see how strong they are, and how, I don't want to say this as a big prediction, but how likely it is that Verstappen could probably win the championship. Obviously, everyone was hopeful that Leclerc would put up a good battle, but it's getting towards the point where it looks like Ferrari are potentially bottling it. So we'll see Verstappen on top of the podium quite a lot more this season.
Cam, a few weeks ago, I sort of said that the worry for Red Bull was that they had the speed but didn't have the reliability, and that Ferrari had the all-round package. Is this race a massive shift in the other direction for Ferrari and Red Bull?
Potentially. I think Ferrari, Leclerc was, I'm not quite sure what happened there, but obviously Sainz was in fourth based on his pace really and his own errors. So I think Red Bull looked strong all week. I mean, I say that Leclerc topped every session other than the race itself. So Ferrari probably will be disappointed that, and Leclerc himself will be disappointed, couldn't translate that into a win, because it was pretty comfortable at the front. I think it was helped by the fact that George Russell was in P2 holding up the Red Bulls, backing them up, which gave Leclerc such a formidable lead before he retired. But I think Ferrari very easily could have won that race with Leclerc. I think they probably would have done if he hadn't retired. Like I say, led every session, looked pretty good, Leclerc. And that qualifying lap after he spun in Q3 was pretty immense, had to do it, pulled out the bag. So I think Ferrari won't be too worried just yet. They'll be slightly worried by Sainz, another incident, another weekend that hasn't gone smooth sailing. But I just want more Leclerc, Verstappen and battles, really. We were sort of denied that today by Leclerc's retirement. We couldn't actually see them two battle on track. But I think Ferrari will remain confident. But Red Bull will take a lot of belief from what's happened this weekend, a 1-2 and another win for Verstappen.
Well, a few weeks ago, we sort of said that, I said probably about a month or maybe even 2 now, that Ferrari's lead was becoming insurmountable. Well, now Max Verstappen's back on top. So I don't think we've seen the last of this title battle. I don't think Max is just going to run away with it plain sailing, but it's a long season and we'll have to see. As for a team that have struggled, Mercedes seem to be on an upward trajectory now, Toby.
Yeah. What I'll quickly say is they are my winners for this week. I think it looks like, I know Toto Wolff said it after qualifying, that they're finally on the right path. It's been something that they've been searching for so far this whole season, and it seems as though that things are clicking into place. Obviously, George Russell, with his second podium of the season, he is probably the most consistent driver, and with a top 5 finish in every single race, I think it's going to be hard for Lewis Hamilton to kind of match that at the moment. But obviously he finished 5th today after having his incident on the first lap. So I think this weekend will probably be as much as a victory for Mercedes as it is for Red Bull in their minds, because I know Hamilton said he wanted to fight with the Ferraris and he was doing that with Sainz the whole race. Obviously Sainz pipped him, but with a 3rd and 5th place finish, I don't think they'll be upset at all.
Are we sort of starting to see the front 3 teams really stamp their authority on the season? The top 2 are obviously Ferrari and Red Bull, still probably the best 2 teams at the minute, but Mercedes have definitely bridged the gap. Are we still sort of seeing, really sort of seeing now those 3 teams stamp their authority on the season?
I think we are. I'm not sure anyone's surprised by that. I think it is definitely a top 2 and then a little gap and then Mercedes. But Mercedes will, like Toby said, will be buoyed by the fact that George Russell had another excellent drive. I thought his defence from Verstappen was honestly epic. That into turn 1, Verstappen's pretty much got him, and then George so late on the brakes gets it done. I was off my seat. I was like, well, that is unbelievable driving. Obviously didn't quite have the pace to keep that position in the end, but that was, outstanding driving from George. And then Lewis obviously had that incident with Kevin Magnussen, put him all the way pretty much right at the back. And I'm not quite sure how he managed to recover the way he did. Would have been 4th if it wasn't for that issue that he had right at the end. So it was like a cooling problem. Car was overheating, I think. And there was a DNF risk, I think, is what his engineer said. But yeah, Hamilton I thought was excellent coming back. But yeah, I think those 3 teams, just to bring it back to what you originally said, those 3 teams are the class of the field. And then it's just a who guess. Literally the midfield is just completely up in the air pretty much every single race.
Well, Toby's already mentioned who his winner this week is, so we'll get straight into our winners and losers of the Spanish Grand Prix. Toby, you've already mentioned it. Mercedes, they're your big winners this week.
Yeah, I'll keep it brief because I think I jumped the gun a bit there by saying it just a minute ago, but yeah, I don't think any other team really did as well as them apart from Red Bull, but because of how consistent George Russell's been and Lewis Hamilton's performance today, I feel like, in my mind, they were the winners.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Mercedes really do look like they've made strides this week. And I thought I'd mention that there was a stat I think Toto Wolff read out over the radio that Lewis Hamilton at the end of lap 1 was 50 seconds down on Max Verstappen, and he ended the race 40 seconds down. So he made up 10 seconds over the course of the race. Don't know how true that is, but that was some performance from Lewis, wasn't it?
If that's true, that's a great stat. That's unbelievable. I mean, I can sort of believe it based on how far he managed to end up. I still can't really quite believe how far Hamilton got up, because on that sort of after that incident happened, he was on the radio saying that, like, guys, just don't waste the engine. There's no point. And I was there sitting thinking, yeah, he's probably true there. I'm not quite sure he can sort of get through all this traffic because he was so far behind. I was not sure. Didn't think he was going to be able to get points, and then turned out where he was. Honestly, fair play. And if that stats would be immense if it's true, obviously not quite sure, but I can believe it for sure because it was a Lewis Hamilton-esque drive. Let's just say that.
And Toby, the other Mercedes driver, George Russell, a really solid week for him.
Yeah, it looked probably like, I think, his best race this season. As Cam mentioned, his defending was mega, and I don't think he could have done anything else really. But it's his second podium, his continuing his streak of top 5 finishes. I just think it's looking to the point where we can really see why Toto Wolff chose him to come into Mercedes this season. Yeah, I'm just thinking about whether he'll be able to continue his streak. I feel like luck has gone towards him in a few of the races, so it will be interesting. But you can't take away from how well he started this season and his start to his career at Mercedes.
Yeah, a really solid start, and the defending from, well, first I think it was Perez and then Max was really, really impressive because that Red Bull's rapid, but he put his car in the right place, and I thought it was completely fair. Red Bull over the radios weren't very happy, but I thought it was fair, good driving, and yeah, just a really good battle. So that was good to see. Cam, I'll come to you now. Who's your winner this week?
Well, it would normally have been Red Bull, but I just didn't like the fact that Perez was denied a victory by them wanting Verstappen to win, which I understand why you'd want Verstappen to win. He is the one who's more likely to challenge in the championship, but Perez deserved it more. Verstappen made a mistake and then was not punished for it. But anyway, my winner this week is someone we mentioned last week, having not had enough praise on this podcast, or last episode, I should say. And it's Valtteri Bottas. I think he just deserves to get his dues because he's gone so under the radar that, he finished sixth. I'm not sure if I actually saw any TV coverage of him driving at all during the whole race, but he looked pretty comfortable. I think he's just continued to be excellent. Obviously his teammate Zhou has retired from the race for the second consecutive race, but even before then he was languishing near the bottom. So it just shows how much Bottas is getting out of that car. And it just reminds me so much of him in his Williams days, getting the most out of a car that doesn't really deserve to be near where he's putting it. And I think it was another drive where you think, yeah, he may not have been Lewis Hamilton, but he's still a really, really good driver. And I get a sneaky feeling that it won't be long before we see him on a podium. I feel like there might be a race where he gets his due reward for a great season so far.
Yeah, to be fair, at the minute to Bottas, he's doing a really, really good job in the Alfa Romeo. And he's sort of that one driver who's outside of the top three teams, who in the last few years has maybe been Lando Norris last year or maybe Pierre Gasly the year before. He's sort of that top driver. He's sort of the leading driver in the midfield, really, isn't he? So he's been really impressive. But Cam, I'll stick with you and we'll come to your loser this week.
Well, I kind of have to talk about it. It's Ferrari for me. Frustrating because I'd love to see them. Obviously, they've lost the lead in the championship, which is frustrating after a great start to the season. But DNF for Leclerc, Sainz had another. I'm really disappointed because I thought this is the year Sainz was going to kick on again. Obviously, last year, I think Leclerc was better, but had a few DNFs, that kind of thing, which is why Sainz finished ahead of him. But this year, the gap between the two has just been worrying, I think. And I think he's very, very close to just becoming a second driver, becoming the Kimi Raikkonen to Sebastian Vettel at Ferrari. And obviously he had an incident into the gravel, cost him his race. He did well to make places back up, so fair play to him for that. And then obviously just a fourth place for Ferrari, not what you need in a title battle really, because they need to be scoring podiums pretty much every week with the way that Red Bull are looking. And the way that you can judge it really is it's Leclerc versus Verstappen, it's Sainz versus Perez. And yet again, Perez beat Sainz, and obviously Verstappen beat Leclerc because of the DNF. So I think Leclerc one's just a bit unlucky. They'll be a bit concerned about it, hoping that they'll be able to fix it. But the potentially more concerning thing is that it was Perez again getting the better of Carlos Sainz.
Yeah, Carlos Sainz. It was, I'd say, 2 or 3 races ago, you're just sort of saying it's a blip, but now it's been 4 or 5 races on the trot where he's struggled, had a few issues, made a few mistakes. So it's certainly not ideal time to be Carlos Sainz, but it isn't an ideal time to be a Ferrari-powered car because, Toby, your losers this week are Haas.
Yeah, I think the only winner for a Ferrari-powered car was actually Valtteri Bottas. Haas just, I will say, they were losers to me because of the fact that they finished 17th and 14th, but sadly a bit of bad luck came into that. Obviously, Kevin Magnussen collided with Hamilton right at the start of the race, and it did ruin his race. The Haas looked quite strong in qualifying, but it just didn't seem to work today. I think Mick Schumacher was running as high as 6th at one point, but then finished 14th. So to keep it short and sweet, it just wasn't a good weekend overall.
Nope, a disappointing weekend for Haas indeed. And Toby, that goes against your prediction. A Kevin Magnussen surprise, I think it was.
Yeah, I was getting excited yesterday when it was 2 good finishes in qualifying, or in Q1 and Q2. I think I was messaging the group chat, and Cam was telling me to keep my feet on the ground. But yeah, it's. I was quite bold with the prediction anyway, so I'll stand by it. Kevin Magnussen will have another top 5 finish soon this season.
Well, I predicted Hamilton podium, and Russell got a podium, so I think that was pretty close.
And Hamilton could have been on the podium.
And I did predict Leclerc and Verstappen would crash, but I mean Leclerc DNF, so get points for that. But one thing I did want to say on Haas Mick Schumacher, I'm getting a little bit concerned. I think it was his first Q3 appearance, qualified 10th, which you think, okay, fair enough. Maybe there's something in that. And then when you have people ahead of you, I mean, Leclerc's the only one who DNF from ahead of him, but still Hamilton, Sainz all went below him from their incidents. And yeah, again, just can't seem to break that. It seems like it's getting into the George Russell Williams kind of mode.
I don't think you can compare them though.
But you just can't seem to get over the line to get a point. I know what George was doing in a Williams was getting the absolute most out of the car and that should have been nowhere near the points. Whereas Mick is not getting the most out of the car that could potentially be on the verge of points. So it's completely different circumstance.
The Haas looks a lot quicker than what the Williams was in comparison, sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure. But Mick, I think it's frustrating because I think he's a very talented driver, but he just can't seem to get over the line of points. I thought this was the weekend he'd do it. A track that every driver knows well. And if you qualify well in Spain, you should get a good finish. That's kind of the way it goes. So qualifying 10th, go back to 14th, even so you lose 4 places plus Leclerc ahead of you, DNF. So you basically lost 5 places on your qualifying spot. And I don't know. I know Magnussen had a poor weekend, a poor Sunday, but yeah, I don't know.
I think the F1 world are quite split on Mick Schumacher because I know a lot of people who big fans, could be a superstar, but also know a lot of people, and I think I'm sort of leaning this way, who think he definitely feeds off the name, like there's no arguing with that, but he's just maybe a bit overrated and he probably won't cut it.
Yeah, that was the Ferrari Driver Academy facts plus his father meant he's going to be the one, he's going to drive for Ferrari. Him and Leclerc is that partnership. Sainz will go out, and obviously Sainz having a poor season doesn't sort of dampen down those rumours, but I'm not sure. He's not having a Charles Leclerc at Sauber-esque season at all, even though the Haas and that Sauber are probably fairly equal, I'd say. The Sauber that Charles Leclerc was driving in 2018 is probably not that much better than what Mick Schumacher's driving right now, and the results are completely opposite. So yeah, I'm not sure. I think Mick needs to do a lot this season to prove himself, and he hasn't done that just yet. But there's still a long time to go.
Tough times for Mick Schumacher and Haas, and they could really do with a result at the Monaco Grand Prix, which we will preview now. Well, lads, the Monaco Grand Prix is coming up. Last year, it looked like it was going to be a dream come true for Charles Leclerc, but he didn't even start the race after qualifying on pole. He suffered what I think was an engine problem, and Max Verstappen went on to take the win, which was crucial in sort of a key period that would pretty much secure him the title during the summer months. But lads, the Monaco Grand Prix, it's one of the most iconic races on the calendar.
Yeah, I don't think you can take away from the fact that it is iconic, but you also can't take away the fact that it is a bit boring. It will all come down to qualifying on Saturday. Maybe this could be the year that Charles Leclerc wins in Monaco.
Cameron wasn't optimistic the other week, and
I'm not sure.
I don't know. I'm one of the people who likes Monaco. I think it's old age argument, but qualifying there is really, really good. I think it's probably the best qualifying session of the year. And people give the argument, but the race is what matters. But I still think Monaco can provide some great races. I think it just has. I mean, you think of Daniel Ricciardo's win there. That was a really good race when he was just holding off Vettel for about 70% of that race. And I was like, just engaging that the whole time. And if something like that happens, you are fully, because they're on the edge and any mistake will get punished. So I think we could very easily have a Verstappen Leclerc type battle like that, where they're just following each other and it's, no one can make a mistake. And that would be really, really good. I'm a fan. I'm not sure if you two are of the Monaco Grand Prix.
I am a big fan of seeing cars drive past boats, so I like it. I think you've got to accept that you're not going to get loads and loads of overtaking, but you will possibly, as we have done the last couple of years. So I'd say obviously Vettel and Ricciardo, as you mentioned, and then Hamilton and Verstappen in 2019. Mm-hmm. That was one of my favorite races from that year. So I think what it does allow is it allows for one good battle somewhere on track, probably at the front, because that's just how it'll be. And I wouldn't be surprised as we saw last year, Leclerc was not expected to get pole. Qualifying could be completely mixed up. And I think it will be one of the most crazy sort of grids we see this year. There won't be much structure to it like last year, because I just think that's the nature of it. But as you say, qualifying will be key. And if it's Verstappen and Leclerc, I think we'll see a battle at the front.
Yeah, it's a pretty anomaly track in terms of just the slow speed corners being so important, which a lot of circuits isn't. And I think what Lando Norris said, I think it was at Australia, he said it, where he said Mercedes have gone under the radar of being one of the best cars in slow speed corners this season. I think that could play a part a la Ferrari last year.
Will that play into your predictions as well, Cam?
Yeah, it will. I've already said it before to other people, but yeah, it will play into my predictions.
Well, Toby, we'll come to Cam after. I want your winner, your pole, your winner, and surprise package for the Monaco Grand Prix.
Okay, so for pole, I'm going to go George Russell.
I'm the one meant to be back in Mercedes.
Winner, I think I'm going to go with Sergio Perez, because I don't think that's a bad shout. And I've already said that George is going to get pole, so I may as well keep being weird with them. And then my prediction, I'm going to go one better this week. Kevin Magnussen, top 4.
God, he's going to get about 3 races down the line. It's just Kevin Magnussen, top 1. Top 1.
Yeah, Toby really wants Haas to lose. That's why he's predicting them to do well.
Oh, dear.
And Cam, yourself?
Well, my Mercedes prediction was going to be the surprise, but pole position will be Charles Leclerc. He will get pole.
Will he start this year, though?
Oh, I don't know. That wasn't in the prediction brief. The winner will be Max Verstappen will win the race. I don't really want him to, but he'll win the race, I think. And the surprise will be that there will be 2 Mercedes drivers in the top 4.
Well, I'm going with Lewis Hamilton on pole position. I'm going with a Lewis Hamilton victory. And I'm going with Valtteri Bottas on the podium. And It will be all 3 Mercedes drivers. So it will be 1-2 Mercedes and then Bottas at 3.
He was good there last year, just that wheel nut pit stop that screwed his race. But he was battling Verstappen really, really hard last year.
Yeah, that is my prediction. Valtteri Bottas, this is your week. Lads, thank you as ever for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Cheers, Joe.
Enjoy your evening. I'm sure you've all enjoyed your day watching the last day of the Premier League. But we will catch you next week for the Monaco Grand Prix.
Hello. No, Mike, that was so not right. Get in there, Lewis. George Russell.